All right, well, great. Wow, what a turnout for this. Let's first thank Mercy University for opening up their campus here, huh? President Parrish, I said it was going to be your line, but I'm stealing it, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, but you'll notice I do that a lot. And I steal the credit of other people, right, Greg?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, all right. But how many people here, this is their first time at Mercy University in Midtown? Okay? Welcome. There you go. You'll get your chance, President. Okay, but thank you very much. Let's hear it for Mercy one more time. All right, what a group we have. We have some folks who still want to do some work with Hospitality Alliance, and we'll have some time, during that. I want to welcome you to another 1010 Wins Leadership Forum where we come together, key leaders, business, community, government, to discuss issues that are so important to our city. In the last forum, we had the MTA chairman, Jano Lieber. He talked about something called congestion pricing. And you see what happened as a result of that, right? I mean, he got it done. So we're going to get a lot done tonight. There's no question about it. Our new mayor has made it clear that he wants to take a fresh look at penalties, fees, regulations that are outdated, unnecessary, and creating undue hardship for small businesses. This follows up on a campaign promise he made, where he said he would decrease fines and fees by 50% and cut red tape. And for this event, we have a panel of experts. Let's hear it for our panel here, right? You bet. And they're going to be discussing this issue, and it's going to be led by our award-winning reporter. Everybody knows Juliet Papa. Right? But before we dig in tonight, let's thank the person and the company that made this possible and pays the bills. Dime Community Bank.
Because growing a business keeps you on the go, we've got your bank. Because a steady cash flow is the lifeblood of your bottom line, we've got your bank. Because your workday simply doesn't stop at 5 o'clock, we've got your bank. Dime Community Bank gives you the digital tools you need to simplify your business banking, even deposit checks, anytime from anywhere. And we back our technology with a team that's always there, wherever business takes you. Visit Dime.com to learn more.
All right, Dime Community Bank. Thank you, Dime Community Bank. And now let's put our hands together and welcome Stephen Miley, the Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer for Dime. It's all yours.
Thank you, Rob.
I warmed them up for you.
You always do. Appreciate you. Where's that 20? Hello, everyone. What a great audience. Man, what a great looking group. And what a great space. We've been together a few times, and we've worked on the 1010 Wins Small Business Challenge. Those of you that are aware of it, it's a great program, and we continue to support it in our 11th year. Look, I'm going to make it simple. Dime, 162 years old this year, right? Brooklyn born, Williamsburg, right at the foot of the Williamsburg Bridge in 1864. Abraham Lincoln's president. And it's critical because we're talking about, how do we support small business, right? Number one, first and foremost, I've owned businesses in the past, and I don't ever believe there's anything such as a small business, right? It's your business. It took our founder realizing that if you were a business owner in Williamsburg at the time in 1864 and you were an immigrant, you were not allowed to open an account at any of the banks. Really? I mean, that's crappy. You built this city. And your generations have built this city. So Dime has, from the very beginning, from day one, not only allowed but encouraged everyone to come to us and help and support our community that we're around. How do we keep red tape to a minimum as a bank? How do we make life easier as a bank? It's really, really simple. We listen and we keep it local. When you're looking for a business loan, we don't have you fill out a form and run an algorithm to see if you're worthy. We sit and we listen. I will tell you, every Tuesday in our corporate office, the executives, we sit around a table and we look at every deal from every banker, and they come in and they present because they're representing you. Just the way the city and the individuals and some of these absolutely wonderful panelists today represent you, right? And that's the only way we can grow as a city. The only way we can grow is if you grow. So we have maintained our commitment for 162 years to helping you grow. And I know the people in this room want to grow. The panelists want to help solve and want to help come up with ways. And the best way we can do that is that we listen. So I'm here to listen. I know they're here to listen, and they're here to provide some possibly great insight. And I just want to say thanks to Mark Basinski and Rob Walsh. Odyssey gives us the platform to be able to reach you. I'm here. Come see me afterwards. And if you can't, dime.com. We're here not just for 162 years, but for leading forward into the future with you. Thanks for being here.
You're the best. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen Miley. Stephen, recently you opened up another branch right here, walking distance from here on Madison Avenue.
37th and Madison.
37th. I have a picture of the ribbon cutting, and I noticed Mark Basinski snuck into that picture at the edge. I couldn't help it. But thank you, Dime, and thank you, Mark Basinski, the partnership that you developed and all the work that you did to put this together. Mark Basinski, right in the back here. Not one, not two, 3 unique college campuses. Metro Hutch in the Bronx, Dobbs Ferry on the Hudson, and right here at the Manhattan campus. Mercy University. It takes leadership. It takes a great team, and it's certainly here. And here is the person who leads it, Dr. Susan Parrish.
Good afternoon. I am so excited about this event. Have been looking forward to hearing from this amazing panel, and I'm delighted to welcome all of you on behalf of my colleagues at Mercy. Today's Leadership Forum, making it easier to do business in New York City. Whether you are joining us from the business community, from civic organizations, or from Mercy, and we have some students in the room I saw, which is great. This is a vital conversation about the future of commerce and opportunity in our city. And I want to extend a special thank you to our co-sponsor, Dime Community Bank, for their partnership in making this event possible. And we were really honored when we got the call from Mark and Rob to host. We're excited. I was so excited to meet Juliet Papa. Sorry. Fangirl moment, can't help myself. To have her moderating, this is just really exciting. And our distinguished panel, we are all going to learn and be wowed by these panelists. So for those of you who raised your hand and you're visiting Mercy for the first time, I'm just going to orient you a little bit. Who we are and why we're hosting this forum and why it's essential to our mission. So Mercy University has spent 75 years opening doors of opportunity for students who are determined to transform their lives through education. We are proud to be a federally designated Hispanic serving institution. We were the first private college in the United States that received the prestigious Seal of Excellencia for our service to Hispanic and Latino colleges. Yes. And I'm also proud to announce that Newsweek recently ranked us the #1 best college for women in New York. #1 in New York. And number 11 in the United States, which is a ranking that recognizes our commitment to advancing gender equity and opportunity. With our 3 campuses in Manhattan, the Bronx, and Westchester, plus our robust online programs, we serve nearly 9,000 students across more than 100 programs. And we are proud that our students reflect the vibrant diversity of our region. 43% of our students are Hispanic or Latino, 24% are Black, and many of them come from right here. A third are from the Bronx, a third are from Westchester. We are a hyper-local institution committing to advancing equity in New York. Our students graduate ready to serve as the teachers who shape young minds, the nurses and physical therapists who heal our communities, the mental health counselors and social workers who provide vital support, and the business leaders who will drive economic growth for their whole communities. But our students' success does not only depend on the quality of education we provide. It depends on the strength and accessibility of the business ecosystem that they will enter. When red tape stifles entrepreneurship, it limits opportunity for our graduates. When regulatory burdens make it harder to grow or start a business, it narrows the pathways to prosperity for the very communities that we serve. And that's why tonight's conversation matters so much to us. The mayor has made cutting red tape a key priority, as Rob mentioned, and we applaud that leadership and look forward to seeing how it will be executed. Streamlining the process of doing business in New York City isn't just about efficiency, it is about equity. It's about ensuring that the next generation of entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders, including many students who will walk across our stage at graduation, have a fair shot at building something meaningful here in New York. At Mercy, we believe in the power of partnership. We believe that when higher education, government, and the business community work collaboratively, we can generate an environment where everyone succeeds. We can break down the barriers that have so long held folks back, regardless of their zip code or background. We want to give folks a chance to succeed, and we can do that in collaboration. So thank you again for being here. I'm thrilled that we're hosting, and I can't wait to learn from our panelists. Thank you.
Boy, if that doesn't lift you up, what does, right? Susan Parrish, president of Mercy University. Unbelievable. Congratulations. Susan, and thank you very much, and go Mavericks, right? Mavericks? Where are the Mavericks in the room? Yeah, all right, go Mavericks, right? Yes. You know, Luis Garcia just reminded me that the Mets and Yankees, I know it's hard to believe with the weather we've been having, but they start in a couple of weeks. When do the Yankees open up? The 28th, right, of this month.
The home game is the 3rd.
You know, there you go, Juliet Papa, right? There we go again, right? Juliet Papa. You know, I go to events and they go, "Where's Juliet Papa?" You know, I also took note that there's another baseball team that Mercy University Mavericks. And I was looking a little bit on the details on this, and you talked about some of the numbers and the highlights and stuff like this, but Mercy is ranked 7th. Division II, in the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association poll. So let's hear it for the Mavericks, right? I know, Garcia, you're trying to figure out how he's going to work baseball into this thing about cutting red tape. I just did it, all right? Now, we have a surprise for you. Look under your chairs or an empty chair that might be next to you. We have a special surprise, as we often do at 1010. Murphy, don't rip out the stuffing of the chairs, okay? We have, you need to look under your chair. Oh, how about that? There's one. Oh, there's two. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, stop, all right? No more ripping out. Those are the two. Those are tickets to the Brooklyn Nets and a Broadway show. Who got the Broadway show? Wellington, you should open it so I know which one you're going to. All right. Okay. Great. And you're going to the Brooklyn Nets. See if.
I'll be your date if you want.
Okay. Wow, look at this. It's already working. All this networking. Would you make sure he shows up? I will. All right. All right, now that we had a little bit of fun, we heard about Mercer University, right? Wellington got his tickets. We need to get down to business. We have a panel here, and we're going to talk about making it easier to do business in New York. That should be easy, right? We put a couple of people in a room, Nourish Spot, woman who runs a chocolate place in Queens. Who else should we could do this, Tom Abraham from HubSpot. You'll figure this out in 15 minutes, right? All right, but we got work to do. Easier said than done. And the mayor has made this one of his key priorities in his administration, no doubt, to decrease the fines and the fees, cut through the maze of rules and regulations. Previous administrations have certainly tried to do this and made headway. We certainly did, and I'll point out that the Department of Small Business Services led the way on a lot of this. Greg did a lot of work that he'll share with us on this, but more needs to be done. And what I want to do today is just to set the stage a little bit, and Harris, you'll correct me at the end of this, but I put a few slides together about this and how they're going about doing that. And Harris is one of the architects of this great effort. And if this works, and I know it's going to work, it will be a big relief for many small businesses along the way. And the mayor is holding agencies accountable. You can see the number of days, inventory of fees and penalties, cutting the ones not needed, legislative reform, and business relief. Now that is a short version of obviously a larger effort. But I had to have a little fun. You know me, right? I mean, with the bureaucracy, and this is sometimes what it looks like, right? But this is what is happening as we speak, and Harris will speak more of it, is the documentation of all of this work. All of the fees across the agencies, the licenses, permits, inspections, applications, certificates that the restaurants particularly have to face and other shops. And the mayor has said a due date, 45 days from when it was announced, so that would have been February 28th, so we'll find out how we're doing on that. And agencies involved, I guess I was telling Juliet, this is like herding cats. Buildings, consumer and workers protection, environmental protection, fire department, health department, mental health, sanitation, transportation, and other agencies that the deputy mayor says so. And then they're going to make an assessment. We have this big inventory. Where can we make improvements? Where can we shorten the time frames? Do we really need that form to go to the fire department? Caroline Kretz would say, yes, that's important. But can we shortcut some of this stuff? And the mayor has put a 90-day deadline on that, April 14th, which is coming up. And Harris, your agency is going to be busy on that, Department of Small Business Services, in making that assessment. And then they'll go on in terms of the initial elimination of those fees, getting to that 50% cut, eliminating certain initial fees, right? Where can we do it? Who do we need permission from? And again, there's a whole bunch of agencies, certainly involved in that. But how do we do this in this day of technology? Do we need all these different forms? Tom Abraham says, no, you don't need all those forms. Just do it all online, right? What can we do to make that happen? And we're gonna hear from Elena about what are other cities and states doing along these lines. And then advancing those reforms. And this is going to be the hard part. This is going to be the hard part internally. Greg and I were talking a bit about this, is advancing that. Nice idea, right? How do we advance this? Whose permission do we need to get? And the tough one in the room at times is OMB, right? You're cutting the fines, where are you going to get the revenue from? And that's going to be one of the challenges that we'll talk about on this panel. Juliet, you're going to have a lot of fun in a minute or two. I'm about to wrap up. And then this was the interesting one that I saw, the establishment of the amnesty program. Does that mean small businesses are going to get money back? You're smiling a little bit, Dawn. Huh? Is that what amnesty means? Is there going to be a check back? Is OMB going to allow that to happen in the situation we have? What kind of relief programs? Are there going to be grant programs? Where do we go from here? And if that sets it up nicely, I wanted to share a slide of what it felt like initially to put some of this stuff together. This was a picture of me at my desk as Small Business Services Commissioner, trying to figure out how to, put all this stuff together. All right, I'm glad you're laughing about that. I've aged a little bit on that. But with that, I want to introduce the person who's going to be taking it from here. Her name has been mentioned already, and this is how I filled the room. I said, Julia Papa's going to be here, right? And that is Julia Papa, the Hall of Famer from the Bronx, award-winning reporter, who's going to take over and lead the question. And every once in a while, I'll be standing over to the side and say, well, yeah, let me add a little bit. But let me turn it over to you, and you'll introduce the great panel that we have.
Absolutely.
Julia Papa.
Great, thank you. Okay, so good to see everybody, and especially the students here. I have to give you a shout out that you're interested in this. And I know this school and this university is particular about healthcare. So if you ever wanted to, do anything as a journalist in healthcare, you're like in the right place. So congratulations. All right. So thanks, Rob. Is everybody seeing me? I feel like Queen Elizabeth, when you only saw her hat. Everybody can see. Okay, great. So this is now my 7th mayoral administration, okay? Don't count too far backwards. And, they come with the best of intentions, but over the years, I have, covered the bureaucracy, and every administration perhaps has a different bureaucracy. There's a certain level of bloat. I do recall Mayor Bloomberg, and it's interesting because I did bring this up with Mayor Mamdani, who was cutting 5% from every agency over the years. I think in every year, we had 2-3 terms, and it was every agency had to cut 5%. And I asked Mayor Mamdani about it, and I said, why not 5%? Because he's asking for 1.5 to 2. And he said, well, no, because then at some point you have to start reducing services, and that's something obviously he doesn't want to do. So we want to wish the mayor the best. We want to have him have progress on this and make sure that some of the bureaucracy that exists he addresses and some of the reduction in fees are successful. So I'm going to introduce the panelists now, and then we're going to hear from them and their particular expertise on this. Elena Boyd is the lead for Accenture's Strategy and Consulting Public Service practice here in New York. Accenture meaning accent on the future. She told me, great name. In this capacity, she works with public sector leaders in driving operational efficiency and harnessing the power of AI. I'd like to hear more about how AI would contribute to efficiencies, reducing bureaucracy, et cetera, and coordinating the Rubik's Cube here, correct? Her background spans organizational strategy, workforce development, business development, change management, and stakeholder engagement. Before joining Accenture, Elena expanded business access to city services at New York City's Department of Small Business Services. So she's right here helping everybody out. Andrew Ridgie, who I've interviewed so many times when the outdoor dining was being established during COVID. And I have to tell you, Andrew, the restaurant on my block was one of the first in our neighborhood, Midtown Manhattan, to open. And because this woman would be out there every day banging the pots and pans, at 7 o'clock, right? And then I'm like, who is this person? I'd be, my head was out the window with my cowbell. And so I found out when she established her outdoor dining, she was actually it's a small restaurant, so she kept her team on, and they were cooking for the doctors and the nurses. So she established her outdoor dining. It was a big success. Then, when all the rules changed, I was talking to her about it, and she goes, no, it's too cumbersome, it's too limited, it's too expensive, so we'll get into that. But let me tell you about Andrew. The executive director of the New York City Hospitality Alliance. It's an association serving and representing restaurants and nightlife venues through the 5 boroughs. He was born into the hospitality business, working at his family's 3rd-generation bakery in Queens. He's been a visible and impactful advocate, saving many businesses during the pandemic, yes, and a champion for outdoor dining. So, is that coming back? We'll see. Commissioner Greg Bishop. How are you? Who's invested himself into growing the capacity of small businesses and community building. He's the executive director now of the Social Justice Fund. It's an initiative funded by New York Liberty and Brooklyn Nets owners. And you didn't get the tickets. What happened with that? Greg first served under Mayor Bloomberg and then Mayor de Blasio. From 2015 to 20, he was the commissioner of the Department of Small Business Services. Fantastic. Now, Harris Khan is the chief of staff for Mayor Mamdani's Small Business Services. He's also their director of intergovernment relations. So you're going to solve the Rubik's Cube question here. Key agency that the mayor is leading on to carry out his Executive Order 11. Here it is, Executive Order 11. I did my homework. And he's playing an important role in creating this new order and really getting it underway. So Harris, we're going to start with you, okay? So Rob laid out the steps to be taken to make it easier for the businesses to grow. So give us a quick update, because you did have deadlines. You have the February 28th deadline, now this March 16th deadline. How are you doing? What deadlines have you met? And so where are you so far?
Yeah, no, first I want to thank everybody that helped put this together. And I want to share on behalf of SBS, but also the administration laid out a really aggressive pathway here to try to get to a status quo and a landscape that looks completely different than the landscape that the administration inherited. And it's powerful to see that on the 14th day of the administration, this is Executive Order 11, and if you go down 12, 13, 14, 15, you'll realize a lot of important decisions were still pending, but the mayor and the administration advanced on this executive order, which lays out a framework to accomplish fines and fees reforms in a way that has never really been attempted before. There's been attempts before, but this fashion and this style and this framework is a completely different way of getting to the root cause that the business community has been challenged with. And one of those challenges is when you have 6,000 regulations that impact small businesses that business owners can keep track of. Do you think government can keep track of 6,000 regulations that government has created over generations and generations of policymakers occupying city council, the state legislature, and the mayor's seat? And so when you think of the layering of regulations over generations, it's not easy to remove and replace those regulations without even understanding where they are, how many of them exist, what are the numbers of fines that are issued per regulation, what's the amount that businesses end up paying, because it's hard to negotiate and lay out a chart and a plan and a mandate for reforms and negotiate with OMB if you can't even quantify what the impact is towards OMB.
So how do you narrow that down, though? How do you narrow down? You're saying how many? 6,000 regulations?
6,000 regulations.
Are you in the process of reducing those, or conjoining them? What's your process?
So what January 14th does is it creates the deadlines and the mandate by which all agencies have to comply with a series of milestones. The milestones that we've reached thus far are milestones that are establishing the baseline and the inventory of all the fines that exist that impact small businesses, right, and all the fees that exist that impact small business. When you want to open up a restaurant, a food business, if you want to open up an ice cream shop, did you know that you have to pay the health department a fee to have a refrigeration unit to keep the ice cream, and it's a $25 fee, and that's actually one of the specific fees that the mayor highlighted last year in his campaign. The mayor said, "Why is it that I have to pay a fee to have refrigerator in my ice cream shop?" The mayor's also talked about a barber shop and how you've got to interact with 7 different agencies, fill out dozens of paperwork, sometimes visit in-person locations. And so the deadlines that we've already started reaching are deadlines that require government to have a baseline understanding of what we're even attempting to do. And in the next month, there's a deadline coming up where agencies will have to, and Rob actually did a great job of laying it out in a slide deck. So if you were paying note, if the students here were writing notes, you have the deadlines. There's a date next month where the agencies get to inform City Hall. So of the larger baseline document that we've provided, all the fines and fees that we've shared with you, here are several that create real operational challenges for us as an agency.
Okay,
and
so-
it's the deputy mayor that then
So,
determines what happens
Greg,
next.
as a former commissioner, is Executive Order 11 like based in reality?
Wow. This is why I love Juliet. It's like, so first of all, thank you for having this important conversation. I think, every mayor has attempted to help small businesses. So first, I want to give the new mayor kudos for actually making a central point his campaign. But to answer your question, there's a number of things that are missing, I think, from sort of like this conversation. Number one, these agencies all report to different deputy mayors, and no matter how good intentions that SBS has zero power to tell an agency to cut a fine. That actually has to come from OMB. It has to come from the deputy mayor that agency reports to. Now, for those government wonks in the room, we have at least 3 or 4 deputy mayors. So those deputy mayors need to be on board with this conversation. The other part that's missing also is I've heard nothing about technology, right? The underpinning of each business's struggle with different agencies, like when I have to go to the fire department to get my assembly of permit or whatever it is, and the buildings department also needs to check something so the fire department knows that this is now ready, so now I could actually dispatch someone. Like, that's missing. And every mayor has attempted to overcome the technology hurdle. So Bloomberg started NBAT, right, where we literally took different individuals from all these different agencies and parked them at SBS so they could actually talk to each other. So when a business came in and said, I need to open, we went down to a room and went to the fire department, went to the health department, and they all in the same room. It's like, what's going on, right? That was then disbanded, and then we started NYC Accelerate, I think it was, right? And we then trusted the agencies to, okay, we know what we need to do. And then I think right now there's another version of that, BEST, right? But the point is that if these individuals, the staff from the agencies, are not in one central area, that we're going to always have a problem with the speed of opening. The technology issue is Bloomberg started with, and I'm going to get it a little wonky, but I'm going to stop in a second, had one technology solution that was sort of like jettisoned by de Blasio, who didn't care anything about technology. So then agencies were left again to pick whatever they wanted. And the issue is that if the agencies are not on the same platform, then you have a situation where businesses run into sort of like, that maze of bureaucracy. And so to get everyone on the same platform, what does it cost? Money, right? And so OMB so some agencies poured out millions of dollars in one technology stack, then all of a sudden that's no longer the case. And so this is like when Bloomberg focused on building the third water tunnel. It's wonky. Nobody runs on a platform of like, we're going to build technology. It's not sexy, right? But it's critical for this city to operate. And we're not talking about that. And I know Elena will talk a little bit about technology.
So I would like to segue, Elena,
sure.
to you. We're talking about technology. Perfect. Your experience is sort of cutting through that and coordinating and using AI as a component. How is AI used? How effective is it? What can it do to, reduce all of this discussion?
Yeah, it's critical. And an opportunity that this administration has that others in the past have not had. So, Greg mentioned the reality that these agencies all operate under different mandates, and oftentimes when siloing happens is because agencies' data systems can't talk to each other. So we now have automation tools and technologies that don't require you to necessarily all get on the same system, but can pull across and do things like review hundreds and thousands of lines of code and regulation in a fraction of the time it would take to do that manually, which saves staff time and focuses people on the priority decision making and can advance the execution faster. So there's opportunity to use automation to overcome some of the limitations around the aging infrastructure that the city has in order to advance this particular agenda. And happy to give more examples of where they're doing that elsewhere.
Yeah, just who would coordinate that, or who would operate the system?
I mean, there needs
The
to be
deputy mayor, like who's like, as Greg was pointing out, you need like a focus there, right?
There needs to be a central coordinating entity for this to be successful that has a clear authority, clear cadence, and a leader that has influence over the agencies involved in order to make sure that execution can take place. That's critical.
I mean, the conversation started with the mayor. So I think that's the key part, that every agency knows that this is an important campaign promise that the mayor has made. So I think that is a good start. But to your point, when I was in government, the mayor's office of operations, which no one in here probably even knows about, but there was the central sort of like key agency that sort of herded all the cats, right? So there is infrastructure built in. But the last thing I would also say about, in terms of OMB is, and Rob mentioned it, and I think we all mentioned this, the easiest way to figure out how serious this is, and Rob and I were talking about this, is just look at the preliminary budget, right? If you see in a budget line for an agency that they still have revenue for fines, then it's not serious, right? And so if you see a dramatic decrease in the revenue line for fines for whatever it is, then okay, this agency has made a commitment to actually cut fines. And so I'll talk a little bit more, because I could go on and on about why it's so frustrating for small businesses to operate in the city.
Yeah, we'll get back, because I do want to get to Andrew, but hold that thought for a second. Well, in fact, just Executive Order 11 says a lot of this has to go up to Julie Sue, who is the Economic Justice Deputy Mayor. So, maybe she will be the one as the overseer. But Andrew, you went through the whole creation of outdoor dining and then the different regulations of outdoor dining. And I was wondering, what changed there? What made sense? What doesn't make sense? And if you can give some examples of what would make it better for restaurateurs to establish or reestablish outdoor dining.
Absolutely. Can I hit on three things really quickly, and I promise I'll get to that and I'll be fast. So like real world examples, I think, of what they're talking about. There's a good change with the health department about giving advance notices about certain inspections to restaurants. But in order for restaurants to be able to get those notices, they need a way to be notified. So we wanted to make sure that the proper contact information was on file. And the way the health department was collecting it was they were sending out a PDF that the restaurant, not even a writable one, I don't think, until I asked, it's like, you at least make it a writable PDF. You had to send to business owners to print it out, write it in with your handwriting, scan it back, send it in, wait for someone to take it, presumably write it in, mess up one of the letters, and then it doesn't go to the right person. Instead of having a system, at a minimum, you could have like a Google form where someone could upload it and then you could just transfer it in. But you really need a system where you could put the information in and then it could be shared with all the different proper platforms. So that's like one reason. And then on the flip side, last year, 2 years ago, with the chatbot, which is using AI, you would ask it about the minimum wage, or you'd ask about other specific, legal questions. And some of the information was correct, but other was incorrect. And at the end of the day, the business owner would be liable for violating the law. So those are like two examples where like the lack of technology is frustrating, but then like new technology can also be frustrating. So I think going back, you need to have really good people like Horace and others in government that can make all of this stuff work and understand how it works on a flow, because so many different agencies have to interact, and even if one is doing something properly, if they're not communicating with another related agency, it kind of just makes the whole situation problematic. And outdoor dining. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sidewalk cafes, for example, you need to get what's called a revocable consent. So we talk about time is money. Requiring a revocable consent, which allows restaurants to basically set up tables and chairs on the sidewalk, is a multi-month process. They could easily remove that and speed up the process by many months to get a sidewalk cafe. Now that's a little bit wonky, but what that means in practical terms, if I'm opening up a restaurant, let's say in April, it's the spring, it's beautiful out. Well, it's really important when my doors open and I start serving people that I can serve my customers on that sidewalk cafe. But because the revocable consent requirement adds many months onto the licensing process, I may not be able to actually get that license and start serving until the fall, or at least the end of the summer. So I'm missing out on all those months of business. Bad for my small business, especially when I'm opening up and I just spent all this opening capital. Bad for workers. And also, outdoor dining can be like promotional for restaurants. People walk by, they see people dining outside, and they go, oh, wow, that's a new place. I need to check it out. So that's like one example of speeding up the process.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I have a lot more. But
Yeah, so Harris, we often, talk about like the dreaded inspectors, oh, here they come.
yes.
You have to clean up your place and you have to, make sure your refrigerator's working. So how do you move away from, fine first, ask questions later? And also, there aren't even that many inspectors in these various agencies to cover a lot of ground. How is that expected to change, or what are you looking to do to see that changes so it is not so onerous on the small business owner?
So I think Commissioner Bishop mentioned a really interesting point, and I think that is something it'd be good to kind of delve into. The preliminary budget is the first budget document that this mayoralty has issued now. It's the beginning of the budget process, right? And then there'll be an executive budget, there'll be an adopted budget, it'll follow council negotiations. But in this initial preliminary budget, there has been investments in the New York City Business Express service team. It's almost doubling the size of our NYC Business Express service team, which I'm breaking some news today, but it's within friends in this conference room. So, and that team's expansion means more businesses can open up faster. There are people in this room, like Don, who've benefited from that team's support and guidance and understanding and making sense of the complex regulatory landscape and guiding them through that process to make sure they can get to opening day faster. Just 2 weeks ago at the start of Ramadan, we heard a business owner, they had 10 days before Ramadan began, they wanted to open their doors the first day of Ramadan. They used to have a smaller shop on Steinway in Astoria, but they outgrew their space. They were just getting so much customers so that they decided to open up this other spot. They had 2 pending permits. Our NYC Best team jumped into action. Within 8 days, they got all of the pending permits in place. Doors open on Ramadan, business is booming. And so that's an example of a short-term, low-hanging fruit win that we could deliver for New Yorkers by building capacity. And then on the long-term front, the reason why we're not going to see reduction in the revenues in the preliminary budget is because this is a real effort where we're asking to put everything on the table, all initial fines, all initial fees that businesses face. And it's led by the Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice, as you pointed out, and with the charge from the mayor from day one. And one last thing I'll add is the administration is also committed to a role that has never existed in city government, a mom and pop czar that would live in City Hall focused on these issues. So as Commissioner Bishop mentioned and others, SBS is one small agency in a bureaucracy of city agencies. There's 300,000 employees in all of city government. SBS has 300 employees. And so having a point person in City Hall that reports to the mayor, listens to the mayor, and can communicate across the deputy mayor teams is vital, is important, it's different, and that's what Mayor Mamdani is delivering.
So Elena, so there is a new SBS commissioner, Kenny Minaya, and then this mom and pop czar, perhaps that will be created. Do you have advice on how they could streamline or how they would work to make a more efficient process for small business, whether opening or managing or dealing with regulations?
I mean, I would go back to looking at what you asked me about before around the use of automation and those tools, and thinking about how do we look at this inventory of processes that are coming in and say, and quickly identify, like, where is there duplication? Where is there outdated language? Where is there discrepancy in the way one agency describes things versus another, and being able to use these tools to do that more quickly to advance then like identification of what needs to be updated and modernized. There's ability now to do automation enhanced benchmarking. So New York City could look across its peer jurisdictions and look at its own policies and say, okay, which ones are unintentionally causing issues and causing delays compared to peer entities, which it makes it so much easier to do that now than that could have before. So focusing on the utilization of those tools, I think, is important. I think the other thing that's going to be really key, and we'll touch on things we'll probably talk about later too, is just this can't be one time. What's really critical for lasting reform here, and I think for lasting impact on small businesses, is putting in place something that is not episodic, but really ingrained, and stands the test of time through some sort of mandated entity or review process, et cetera, that can be done on a regular basis. And that's where we see best practices coming from other states and across the country. This is not a one-time look at regulations and fees and fines. It's something that's done on a regular basis to ensure that they can consistently be meeting the needs that
what
users
is
have.
your experience with other municipalities? How have they worked this out?
So we see regulatory modernization happening across the country. We recently worked with a state in the Midwest to review hundreds of lines of code and identify things that I just talked about, duplication, outdated language, et cetera. And the governor and his agency leadership team are using that to drive a roadmap to reduce and simplify the regulatory code. Other examples, New Jersey last year established an Office of Regulatory Reform, and they put money in the budget to fund the administrative operations of that entity focused on simplifying regulations. California has invested really heavily in digitizing the permitting process to reduce delays. Washington State is another example. They have a program to support small businesses through compliance processes at no cost to the small businesses. I think
that's important because everything seems to have a cost, right? Andrew, let me ask you. So does let's say, restaurateur, do they see everything like this online somewhere? Like, can you go on 311 and see the big picture, like what you owe me?
Yeah.
Or is that
or
is that the black hole?
I think that goes back to, to the technology. It's like if you have a bank account, right? Like you can usually go onto your account and you've got multiple credit cards linked to it or different family members. Like you can see everything in your dashboard. I think the city has tried and done some things over the years, but you cannot see your whole business from a 360 point of view, and with status updates. And I just wanted to add, because yes to everything you said, and my friends who have been in government or in government, can comment on this, because I haven't been in government, but I advocate on behalf of the industry, so I interact often, is yes on all the technology and the reforms and everything, but to me, there's a big fundamental political issue. Is that when you want to make reforms, the people are going to go to the different agencies, and I can guarantee you that two things are going to happen. There's going to be people at the agency that for one reason or another do not want to make the change, and they will convince the people at City Hall of why they can't do it legally. It's always the lawyers behind the curtains, the legal reason, the legal department said you couldn't do it, or the person that's been at the agency for a really long time likes the way they do something, or they don't want to give up power. And until City Hall basically has someone who has the proxy of the mayor and can go and either slam their real fist down on the table, or you know what I mean, and say, I understand you don't want to do it, but we are going to do it. I don't like that legal interpretation. Give me a new interpretation. You know, I also think, oh, we can't do that. Well, the city gets sued for things all the time, and they choose what to defend, and they choose, you know, what things that they don't bother with. So I think it is a real political issue where you need to, and it seems like this mayor really wants to do this, goes in and busts permanent bureaucracy, because that is a priority of the administration. And there are countless ways that it can be done. It just really comes down, in my opinion, to having, you know, the political mandate and the passion and the, you know, oomph to actually get it done.
Great. Okay, one more thing, and then we're going to take some questions.
Sure.
Okay, so
So I just wanted to jump in on that part. I do think you're absolutely correct in terms of like change in behavior. I will say that once it starts with the mayor making you know, a commitment, you know, the last mayor, sorry, I'm not, so Mayor de Blasio, when he came in, he created the office of MWBE, right? Rob and I worked on the MWB program under Bloomberg, and it's the same situation. We were powerless. Like, we would have to go to agencies and encourage them and beg them, et cetera, et cetera. Once the office came, we went from 7% utilization to 30% utilization, right? So it's important to have something central in City Hall, because then the agencies understand like how important it is. But I would also say there's a couple other things.
maybe the battery's going. Yeah,
Is it
use
go?
that. Sure.
There we go. I think the battery might be running. So you had some questions in terms of what advice I would give the commissioner, right? Number one, I would say like SBS needs more power, right? For sure, if a business gets fined, like SBS should be part of that process, and SBS should be able to say like, okay, we're going to teach this business and we're going to waive the fine, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I went through this exercise. There are fines that are affects the health and safety of New Yorkers, right? And I hate to say this, the reason why we have 6,000 or whatever number of regulations is because somebody did something bad, right? Like, the city is just built on layers and layers and layers and layers of bad behavior, right? And so that is, I hate to put it that way,
That's a quote.
but that is that is exactly, you know, from since the inception. So that's why we have so much regulations. But to your point, like, some of these things are like, you know, back from the 1800s, where we should probably change that, right? And so, but SBS and Oath needs to be sort of like connected in a way where a business can appeal to SBS and SBS can waive, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to drive OMB crazy, because it's impossible to figure out like your revenues, right? The training for inspectors, right? Because you talked about inspectors. I cannot tell you how many business owners, especially the restaurants and also, you know, DCWP, Department of Consumer Worker Protection. One inspector will come in and say, this is good.
That's
Another
right.
inspector 6 months later will say, that's not good,
Correct.
right? They're
Yeah.
not consistent.
Yep.
How do we maintain consistency, right? But it's the same message, right? The way you do that is, what if the business owners can actually rate the inspection process? So now that inspector will
like
get
a comp stat
exactly.
kind of thing.
So
Yeah.
an inspector comes into a business
Interesting.
owner
Right.
and does the inspection, and the business owner can then send the agency, this is, you know, a grade from the inspection. I bet you behavior will change
Yep.
at that point, right? And then the last thing I would say is that, you know, the USDA has a great way of inspecting, and this is the sort of federal.
Correct.
It's more of a teaching. So they come in, they tell you what the fines are, and they'll tell you, we'll be back in 10 days. Make sure these things are corrected. When they come back, if it's not corrected, then it's on your fault, right? So I think that is the sort of like the way we need to change
Right.
the way
Like a model.
agencies interact with businesses.
Okay, great. We're going to take questions now for esteemed panelists. So who has a question? Questions for the panel? Yeah, Wellington.
I remember Commissioner Walsh, when he was at SBS, mentioned this famous quote about that to open a restaurant, he did a study about that it needs 70 stops. And that stuck in my mind.
70.
Yes, so when I brought it up, we just had a roundtable at SBS last week, they couldn't find that report. And so I would love for you to show them what the 70 stops are, because they don't believe it.
I got rid of that. Are you kidding?
70, you mean 70 items, like a checklist? Okay.
You have to go through, don't forget, you have a lot of stuff to go through between liquor authority and.
Correct.
Well, you think about that, and you think about also not just the government agencies, you also think about utilities, right? And God forbid you have a liquor license, right? So it's complex.
Okay, next question. Yes?
Hello, everyone. My name is Adrienne Michelle. I'm the founder of Safe Stops Global. I'm also a finalist of the Don Banks Small Challenge. I'm a current student at NYC University, so right at home with that.
Wow, you're batting 1,000 here, right?
I wanted to thank Reggie. You brought up a lot of great points, right? As a business owner, the barriers to entry to do business is very hard, especially as a tech company, right? I've created a mobile app to help streamline traffic stops. Now, trying to get to somebody or know who the right people are is crazy. Like, where do we start? There should be some kind of processes that are available. Is there any way that we're looking into things on how to have, I guess, business owner input into some of the technologies you're looking to buy, or, how you're soliciting them? Thank you.
I mean, I could say as an association, we're membership based. So, our members reach out with questions about all sorts of issues. So if it was about connecting with, other companies that you may be able to collaborate with, or, you're trying to get in touch with someone in government because it's related to the work that you're doing. We always try to make connections. I think so much of business is just like knowing who to call for what and having a really strong network of people that know their stuff. But I guess I'd let Horace, as far as how do you connect directly with government, answer that part of the question.
Yep. I'd love to stay connected with you. I'd like to make sure you get my information. And then in our office, we have because I heard you talk about technology contracts or solicitations or opportunities. How does government purchase technology is what I think I was hearing. And so we've got a whole a division of economic and financial opportunity that really focuses on contracting opportunity as an equalizer for New Yorkers, for small business owners and entrepreneurs to compete and win and grow their businesses through city contracts. I'll make sure you are connected to that team. If you're registered in New York City, you could be certified as a minority and women-owned business, and there's all these resources available to help you grow.
That's right.
And I would add to that too. I think like just the fact that you're here right now is so important. Like one of the things I say, just like giving advice. Sorry to put Dawn on the spot right here in the front, but Dawn's like a perfect example of over the years,
Yes.
Nourish Spot in Queens, like all these types of meetings, panel discussions, she is at. And it's so amazing to see all the things that she has. Not that she doesn't have her own challenges and everything, but she's had and created so many opportunities for herself about being present, showing up, standing up and asking questions. So I think like just being an entrepreneur, like that's,
Right.
don't talk about it, be
Yeah,
about
talk
it.
to
And-
Dawn. Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Kate Hallett.
Speak up a little.
My name is Kate Hallett. I'm actually a lobbyist. And my question is, so Horace, you're talking about streamlining and cutting red tape, and somebody had mentioned the SLA and liquor licenses. And especially when it comes to restaurants or entertainment generally, that's where your money is. I used to practice liquor law, and my question is, considering a large portion of getting your liquor license is city-based, like you need to go to your community board, and there's all sorts of, that part, which is actually a huge part. Who's connecting the state to the city?
And when you ask that, you're thinking specifically about these regulatory reform efforts in general? I mean, just today, we were in a conversation with the governor's office on regulatory reforms and on their efforts and our efforts and how both efforts are happening at the same time and making sure we're maximizing opportunities in this effort. Express New York is an effort that the governor has announced. My understanding is until April 3rd, they're open to all kinds of policy reform recommendations from New Yorkers to the state of New York. We're undergoing our own process, and so constant regular communication with our counterparts there, because specifically when you brought up SLA, it's a multi-layered process where you have to engage with the local community board, but then the actual licensing occurs in Albany, and we have to make sure that that process is as seamless as possible if we're trying to really streamline the process for New Yorkers.
Okay. One more question? One more? Going? Yeah, okay.
Are you using a consultant like Accenture to go through the? Now, actually a two-part question. How much money is collected from all of these fees? Do you even have an idea of what amount of money we're talking about?
Yes, we have an idea. We have a more clearer idea than ever before, thanks to the mayor, because we went through this exercise. This effort is really being led by City Hall with the Deputy Mayor's Office. This is Julie Su, who's the new Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice, and our incoming commissioner, just 3 days ago in his announcement, he also highlights the fact that SBS and this whole work to make the regulations make sense is tied to economic justice. There's no justice in a situation where Amazon can have all kinds of attorneys, lawyers, lobbyists on deck when they want to engage with New York City government, state government. But then when you go to your local small business owner that wants to open up, or somebody in this audience, somebody who's a student at Mercy who wants to open up, it's just them navigating with the web of city government and state government. So it's being led by the Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice, and it's all in-house by all the amazing civil servants that do this
And
work.
I'm going to jump in because I have to jump in like things like this. You can reduce fines and you can reduce fees and you can do all of this stuff, but the problem with government very often, which goes back to, I love Greg's line, it just gets layered on over years, is that there are so many proposals from city and state lawmakers that would make it so much more complicated and so much more expensive to run a small business in the city of New York. So this is not only a game of reducing fines, it's about being proactive to stop things from happening, because what would honestly happen, you could reduce fines, but then something new is passed,
Right.
and it basically offsets all the good you did.
Harris, did you have a number? Like what is collected over?
I don't have it off of me, and I'm sure it'll be announced in the first 100 days as an accomplishment of
Okay,
this administration.
okay.
So, right, do you have a question?
Yeah.
When we were doing our version of cutting fines,
Yes.
we identified almost $9 million in fines to cut. But that was 5-6 years ago.
Right.
The last thing I'll say, and then I'll stop, is I love the point that you made, because we don't hold our elected officials accountable for the laws that they're passing. That also makes it very complicated for small businesses, right? And I hate to say this, there's business owners in the room, but when you make a law that it's fair scheduling and paid sick and, all these different things that make it a nightmare to actually keep track of. It's not necessarily the issue. It's more so how do you prove that you're doing these things so when you are inspected that you're not fined, right? And so that is also something. The last thing I would say is that for the business owners, you need to join associations and lobby against these things, or at least let the legislatures know, because none of them probably have ever run a small business, how they impact the legislation, how they impact your business.
Right. And you had a quick question? Quick question.
So, I attended the Thrive Summit yesterday on Long Island. It's the economic development of Long Island, but New York State was there, Economic Council. I'm in construction, but there's small businesses. We help small businesses, restoration, remediation, construction. We do a lot of government contracts. Now, they're telling all the Long Island base who are interested in dabbling, Queens, boroughs, Westchester, all this, New York State contractor. Sign up for free for the entrepreneur up there for her technology. If she wants to bid on government contracts, sign up for the New York State contract reporter. That way you will get updates on technology bids, on this, on what genre like you fall in. I'm a GC, so I'm going to do electrical, plumbing, contract roofing. So that's another way they're trying to direct people from Long Island who want to bid on small business projects and energy projects. The Hard Rock's coming. Everybody's excited about that. So there's a lot going on that people are telling from Long Island for small businesses to go to New York State contract.
Okay, so what we're hearing basically is there's a lot of compartmentalization, right? And, to Andrew's point, you want to kind of see that big picture somewhere on some monitor or some, website perhaps that would ease the process. So anyway, I'm going to turn it back to Rob. So next time we're here, maybe instead of Rubik's Cube, Rube Goldberg thing, we're going to see Rubik's Cube and how we solve the puzzle. Okay,
like
there
it.
you go.
You're the best. Juliet Pop, everyone, right? Yeah. Susan, I don't know why she's not teaching a course at Mercer University next semester. I'll negotiate. I need a lobbyist. Where's the lobbyist? This is how it's all happening here, right? Everyone's doing business together. We have a little bit more business to do. First of all, thank this panel. Wow, amazing. This is just incredible. This guy saved hundreds and hundreds of businesses during the pandemic. Andrew Ridgey. I mean, heart and soul. I mean, you talk about an advocate. There's not a greater advocate than this guy. Yeah. And he's still at it. He's still at it with the outdoor dining. I mean it. One of the great New York heroes of ours. Elena, Harris, Greg, you didn't have anything to say about OMB, or we're on the same page on. What a great panel. What great insights. I hope this was valuable to everybody here. We are now here to kick off the Dime Small Business Challenge. How many small businesses are here in the room? Raise your hand. Or those who work with small businesses, raise your hand. Listen carefully as Mark Basinski comes up and talks about the 10-10 Wins Small Business Challenge. Let me turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening. What a pleasure it is to welcome all of you here at Mercer University Midtown Campus. I'm proud to announce that we, through Dime, as well as 10-10 Wins, have now awarded $240,000 to small businesses. It was 11 years ago, Rob, that the two of us got together and said, what can we do for small businesses to promote small businesses? Right, Julian? 11 years ago. We then went to Dime Community Bank, and they said, we're all about small businesses. We want in. We're now in our 11th year, thanks to Dime and Stephen Miley. And I'm here and proud to announce that we are officially opening today the Dime Small Business $10,000 Challenge once again for the second quarter. Thank you. So, if you're a small business, and if you know of small businesses, please have them apply. It's at 1010wins.com/challenge. All you need to do is tell us what you would do to enhance, enlarge, and modify your business, and you perhaps could be our next winner. That's 1010wins.com/challenge. President Parrish, we thank you very much for not only being a judge at some of our challenge events, is where we got to know you, but we also thank you for the hospitality tonight. Thank you. I can tell you from the first call that we made and the referrals that you made to all of your staff members, every one of your staff members have been top notch, and you should be proud of each and every one of them. Thank you for the job well done. The panelists, we thank you for your time, your energy, and the great news that you brought here tonight. And we also thank Rob for his partnership and his commitment to small business. Thank you. That leads me to Juliet Papa. Juliet Papa has always been reporting on small businesses here in the New York City area. We thank you for your commitment. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your talents. And also, we're very proud of the accomplishments you've made, not only being an award winner reporter, but also to have a street named after you, which is amazing. We close tonight with a very historic photo at 1010 Wins, and that is, give us 22 minutes, we give you the world. And one last line, more people get their news from 1010 Wins than any station in the nation. With that, we thank you. Good night. Thank you for being here.